Hey, this is Kate. If you're enjoying the content on the Good Fight channel, then please do hit like and subscribe below. Thank you. So I never actually really got to speak to you like one-on-one before. So what I don't know about is your journey from being like an active fighter to then going to coaching, which really interests me. So well, first of all, did you always think that coaching is where you would end up?
Absolutely, because the gym that I'm originally from, Fred Jenkins from North Philadelphia, who basically raised me, was my mentor as well as my first head trainer. He trained
Mm-hmm.
us. He trained us or taught us under a boxer coaching tutelage. So as kids, when Fred couldn't be at the gym, he taught us how to train each other. And that always stuck with me because when he did that, he also taught me how to film study. He also taught me how to stick to basics and fundamental and make sure that that was the major part of any kind of system you was going to fight from. So yeah, coaching always going to be my thing, and it always was going to be my thing. And every trainer I've ever been around, Kate, one thing they'll all tell you, regardless of fighting style, regardless of this, Malik Scott asks me 1,000 questions per day about this sport. He was a geek, like, you know what I mean? So it was ordained in a way.
So is there one coach that you would pick out as the guy that had the most influence on you?
Collectively, it's so many. You know, God bless me to not just be around so many great teachers, but to be taught
Mm-hmm.
by them as well. So if I had to do that, I would have to go to the original guy who started me off and stuck with me through the whole thing was Fred Jenkins. Then from Fred Jenkins, I was with the Al Mitchell to the Tony
Oh,
Jacobs, to the Joe Goosens, to the Emmanuel Stewarts. To, it just and the
man.
list just goes on and on.
When you got the job as lead coach for Deontay Wilder, which was before the trilogy fight, before the third fight with Tyson Fury, right? Had you trained any other
Yeah.
pros at that time?
No, I always was like a strategizer. I was always in professional camps. What I was doing was I would stay in professional camps besides my own camps. And when I was in these camps with guys, we would strategize and I would help guys out, give them tips and things like that. But head on board, head coach for another professional fighter, no, that never was my role because I was always doing my own thing, sparring guys, fighting myself,
Mm-hmm.
looking for the loopholes in my own career.
So when that opportunity came, did you feel ready at the time?
Yeah, I felt that I was overqualified. Deontay just gave me more of a stamp.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's very cool. So obviously that meant running a camp. It meant leading in the corner. Did it all come really comfortably to you then? It kind of sounds like it did.
Yeah, it really did, especially with Deontay, because we have a long history together. Always was in training camps. I've learned so much as far as camp coordinating, how to go about not just training a fighter, but keeping certain energies around them in camp, coordinating the camp. And I got that. I learned that from JD's. I've been a huge pupil of JD's, not just in boxing, but in life. And he taught me how to go about those kind of things as far as camp coordinating, picking what guys that would be a good look for Deontay to spar, things of that nature. So like it's a very detailed job, especially training someone that is very detailed and like things a certain way, like Deontay. So I would say the only reason why these things come so natural and so easy because I've always been a student of the game, in and out the boxing ring, the intangibles of it.
So when you talk about energy in camp, what's the most important thing for you in terms of that?
The most important things in this particular instance, we're talking about Deontay. Whatever is a plus for Deontay, that's what's for camp. What's not a plus for him, that's not in camp. So what do I mean by
Mm,
that? What I mean by that is the only agenda in me training Deontay is for him to win. The only agenda is about victory. If no one is adding on to that in any kind of way, it could be in a conversation with someone. If I'm in the gym with Deontay or the gym is crowded, we in camp and guys is saying, yo, champ, I like how you was doing that to me in camp. I mean, during sparring, it was hard for me to get past that. Let's keep that up. Let's keep going. And a guy over here maybe saying, that was good work yesterday, champ. You hit me with that shot. I hit you right back, though. But your defense was very accountable. Things like that. That's good energy. That means we are all working in nature for the best possible circumstance for Deontay to be victorious. What I
hmm
don't allow in camp is for guys to be around Deontay and they constantly talking about gibberish, 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 and not boxing. I'm a boxing guy, Kate. So it's cool. We could shuck and jive for a minute, but the craft come first, especially with Deontay, because one of my pluses with coming on board with Deontay is I'm a nerd and I'm a geek. So Deontay last trainer, which was the legend Mark Breland, they didn't have that kind of chemistry. When boxing was done with Deontay in a boxing gym, it was over. With me, that's not the case as a trainer. Once me and my fighter, we leave a boxing gym, once training is over, yeah, the physical part is over, but now you got to receive film studies for me at 1, 2 in the morning. By the time you wake up, you have film to study. We have to get together and talk box. And I learned that from, you could say, Emmanuel Stewart. Because if you look at a lot of Emmanuel Stewart, especially on the second half of his coaching career, a lot of it was verbal. A lot of it, you see him taking walks with Lennox. You see him, even in his days with Tommy Hearns, it was talking after the sparring. So I remember before the Tyson Fury, the trilogy camp started, I sent Deontay a message. I said, bro, I want to break one habit that I feel as though that needs to be broken. And he was like, what's that? I said, after sparring, I don't care how many rounds we do. Right from that, we're going to do certain tactical work, and then we're going to talk boxing and go over the things, the whys, the hows, and everything we did in sparring for that. Then after that, sometimes we out eating dinner, and I'm like, hey, yo, bro, the technicalities of that jab, we have to work on it. And sometimes I could be overbearing for him, you know what I mean? But that's a good thing because Deontay appreciates it, you know?
How much of that do you think is about like the approach to boxing or what happens in the ring? And how much of that is more so psychology? Do you feel like psychology is a big kind of part of your role?
Extremely, especially dealing with Deontay because he's an all energy person. The mentality of him is what makes him extremely dangerous. Like, yeah, the right hand and his extreme power is everything, but the belief that he has in that, which comes from his mentality, that's what gives him the edge. So I go for more psychology. I go for more motivating. I go for because I could do the physicality teaching all day, but if I'm not building a good bondage of motivation chemistry with my fighter, then to me it all means nothing.
What about the belief you have to have in yourself in that role, right? Because I feel like when you first got appointed, there's always haters in boxing and in anything, right? I feel like there were people who had their doubts because they looked at the situation and they said, okay, but you had lost to Deontay when you guys fought. So how do you make him better, right? How did you deal with that doubt from the outside? I always find for me personally, I can deal with other people's doubt. I struggle more with my own self-doubt, right? Did you have any doubt in yourself or were you super confident from the get-go?
I think if I didn't have my own career, if I didn't come from the actual streets of North Philadelphia, I think those kind of things would rattle me a little bit. But the fact of me, I'm very well in tune with mankind and human nature, and I have a high expectation for hate when it comes from human beings, especially when it's things that's unfamiliar. And that was unfamiliar, that type of situation that happened with me, Deontay. So not only is you guys friends, but y'all fought. Not only did you fight, he knocked you out. Not only did he knock you out, it was speculations and allegations around the fight. Then all of a sudden, this guy is going to be your trainer. Please. So I kind of expect if I didn't hear it, it would have been a bit awkward. But if I can have it anyway, Kate, I would much rather people not understand the circumstances that comes with my teaching or comes with my background, whatever it is, than to have everybody hip hop arraying for it. I work very good under this kind of pressure as a coach, and I don't mind it at all.
So is there any way in which it's been difficult to be Deontay's friend? Because you two are tight, right? Every time you hear him talk about you, he refers to you as a brother. I think you do the same as well. So is there any way in which it's been difficult to be his friend and his trainer, to combine those two?
Not as difficult, or not difficult at all compared if you think of how people would think it would be. Deontay, when I told you at the beginning of this conversation, I said I felt overqualified. I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that in that way of I felt confident. And then me feeling confident, and Deontay believed it in me right off the rip. And things that he was telling me about me being a great coach and a future Hall of Fame coach, and the confidence JD's was installing in me about my mindset and my knowledge that I have to get to boxing. It just was, it's not a problem. Me and Deontay, we go back and forth at times. There's times I lack off in certain areas. He had to say, yo, bro, let's get it together, man. We have to do it this way. There's times I go to him and say, bro, I don't agree with that. We have to do it this way. And he gets it. And if he don't get it, we'll talk about it later on after the work is done. And then we come into an agreement. And either way, it goes for what's better for him. And that's all I'm about. And he knows that about me. So he has no problem following my instructions.
Do you think it's changed your friendship?
I think it's made us even closer. I think it's made us even closer. I think Deontay always knew our brothership was extremely good, but I think since our teacher fighter relationship, in my opinion, it surpasses our brotherhood. And that's saying a lot because,
Wow.
I mean, me and this guy, we're extremely close. But when it comes to our chemistry as fighter and teacher, to me, it's incredible. It's a dream come true to me because it's almost like, hypothetically speaking, Kate, it's almost like I'm a pure boxer, right? And I always like kind of wished or prayed, like, man, if I only had that kind of power. So now I'm looking at it like, hold on. Here's a guy, I got a guy that's extremely athletic. He has the
Mm-hmm.
power that I never had, that really no one had. And I get to implement my boxing skill. And he's open-minded. He wants to take to my system. I'm a kid in the candy store. So, this thing has made our chemistry even more closer.
That's dope. So, I mean, you took over with Deontay at a time where I guess he felt wronged by multiple people, right? He felt wronged by Mark Breland. He felt wronged by Tyson Fury. One of the things I always wondered about in terms of the role of a coach, is it difficult to be honest with your fighter whilst at the same time making sure that you're maintaining and building their confidence? Is that a difficult balance to strike?
Well, it depends on what your agenda is. I don't mind Deontay being mad at me or cussing me out because I'm telling him something that I feel that was right for him. I don't mind him being upset at me because I spoke my mind about something that has to do with this craft that he don't agree with. I don't mind telling him. Now, if me telling him what I feel as though is right and not just agreeing with him, if that right there causes us to have some type of outbreak that we're no longer brothers, then we never was brothers. Like that's how serious and compassionate I am about the relationship. So it's almost like if I'm telling him something, Deontay he trusts with his life that I'm only saying it because it's the best. It's the best thing for him. If I disagree with him, I have no problem saying no. That's not it. We're going to do it this way because this. And Deontay is an example. He's a visualizer. He's an energy guy. So if I'm coming to him with something, I'm not just saying, yo, you have to do this in the ring because of this, and you're not doing that. I don't go by the verbs, Kate. You get what I'm trying to say? I have film study. Humans can lie. Humans can make things up opinionated. You can't tell me what you think if I could tell you what we both see. And that's film study.
That makes a lot of sense. So it was October that he fought, right? Do you guys have a timeline when you want to see him back in the ring?
Oh, yeah. Well, you leave that up to me. I think Deontay should be fighting 3-4 times a year, but that's in the made-up world right now, especially
Dang,
when
that's
you look
often.
at because if you look, especially if we get work how we did like the other night in October,
You go one round.
Flip a guy. Yeah, like that's like,
Right.
and what's the real scary part about it is he had the ability, even if he fought 3-4 times a year with his type of power and the way he's taken to the systemized things that we're working on now, that type of result can happen every fight. So what do you do with a guy with this type of freakish type of power? You have to keep him busy. But for the sake of the business and for the sake of big fights and these big fights to be promoted in a certain amount of time, fights take time. You know what I mean? So if it's up to me, I would want to see Deontay back in the ring in first quarter of March. I think we should be back in training camp in January or something like that, or pre-camp or something like that. So, everything is going to be good and according to schedule. It'll be a good thing.
So there's only currently 2 routes back to a title for him, right? One is through Oleksandr Usyk, and then the other one is through Tyson Fury. How soon do you expect him to be able to be back and contending for a title? Like, how quickly do you think he gets into a title fight?
I think he's big time boxer, so I think right now Deontay can end up going into a title fight. The negotiations are going on right now with a couple guys. That's obviously when negotiations is going on with Deontay, it's either title eliminators or title fights. He's just that established type of fighter. Not to go around your question, Kate, but I truly believe and I thought that Usyk was going to come to the fight with Helenius because this is what was told.
We all believe that. That was the narrative.
Absolutely. Yeah, but Usyk has major plans, and Eagles, they have major plans right now, only focused on Tyson Fury, and that right there is the business aspect of it. And I get that. If it's up to me, Deontay will fight Anthony Joshua next. But Deontay and me and our team can't just win it, but AJ is having a rebuilding type of conversation or verbs that he's saying. So it's just all about getting whoever it is we can get in the ring, but that also meets that top. That high level boxing criteria concerning marketing, concerning fans, and things of that nature.
Are you saying if it was up to you, he would fight Anthony Joshua because you already believe that Oleksandr Usyk wants to go in a different direction right now and his focus is elsewhere? Or are you saying that because actually, not because you think that Deontay would kind of prioritize the fight that feels more personal to him?
Before the Helenius fight in interviews, I was saying that, I want Usyk or AJ next. But now, since Usyk has basically declined and made his mind up that he's only going to wait for Fury, then AJ, is available. In my opinion, he's available. But mentally, is he available? Like, yeah, physically he could, but and what I mean by that is he's willing to fight Deontay right now because Deontay is ready to fight anybody in the world, especially these names that I'm naming right now, the Usyks, the Anthony Joshua's, even the Fury for part 4. I'm very interested in that.
But let's be real. If you were Anthony Joshua's coach, would you be telling Anthony Joshua to take a fight against Deontay Wilder right now?
At this level in his career, absolutely I would. Because one, the fight was supposed to have been happen. Two, he just lost to Oleksandr Usyk 2 times. 3, I also believe Anthony Joshua is big time boxing. These guys are now getting older. Let's get these big fights made. I would hate for so much time to go by, Kate, and we end up with another Riddick, Bo, Lennox Lewis type of situation. These greats didn't get to fight each other. These type of fights are just not good for boxing. They're good for the world. They're good for sports. They're good for culture. They're good for the young kid that's coming up 14, 11 years old in the gym that want to see these kind of fights. So I just think it should happen. I think, but we can want it all we want. AJ has to want to fight, and his team has to want it, and Eddie has to actually be willing to do, you could say, legitimate good business, and him and Shelly have to connect to make this happen. Or otherwise, Deontay is going to do bigger and better things, whatever that may be.
You have said that you think that Anthony Joshua is a long way from matching Deontay Wilder. Where do you think he's lacking?
But you got to be very careful with these fighters, kid. They're very tough, but extremely sensitive. So they only like when you say good stuff about them. So, you got, what I mean? They'll love you until you say something against the wall. But I'm going to say this.
But you don't need Anthony Joshua to love you, do you?
Not at all. I'm hoping that he don't so much that he wants to fight my fighter, Deontay
There you
Wilder.
go.
So the whole thing is like, I feel as though that AJ, this is what I do understand. The lack of mental strength right now may not be there because he lost 2 times to a smaller guy. So to go against that specimen called Deontay Wilder, you may need to build yourself up to take on that kind of fight. And I get it, but the advantages and the things I see Deontay doing to whatever AJ showed up, mentally tough, not mentally tough, is a 3-round fight in my opinion. But he can't get out the way. Deontay is just not a guy that's a big guy that punches hard, but he's slow. He's not a big guy that punches hard, but is distant and third. No, it comes fast. If you can't get out the way of it, you're in trouble. And I believe AJ is in trouble if he signed the contract.
What about the fact that you've seen Anthony Joshua? He did it prior to the second fight against Usyk. He did that kind of like tour of America where it felt like he was trying to figure out which American coach do I want to work with. And then more recently, he was photographed with Derek James, right? Is there a coach in America that you would pick for him and say, I think this is the guy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Joe Goosen is the perfect match for someone like AJ. Why? Because, and that's speaking here in America. Like, you got great coaches like Barry Robinson that's always available to do good business, that's willing to work with anybody, that's willing to listen and take to his system. But if we're talking about here, they came to Los Angeles and they didn't even stop and see Joe Goosen. I don't understand how. Joe Goosen is a legitimate Hall of Fame trainer that earned it, has done everything in boxing. He's a drill master. If you're in that Tingles gym, you're going to be drilling every day. He's a motivator. He's articulate with the instructions. He's calm. He's cool. He's done everything that could be possibly done. But it seemed like that, I don't know, they going everywhere. To me, in my opinion, that's not, I wouldn't say not a good fit for AJ, but for what AJ need, I just think Joe Goosen has the recipe.
You've been in that position yourself, right? Where you're trying to work with a fighter who's coming into the next fight off the back of 2 consecutive losses to the same fighter, right? Because that was Deontay's situation when you went into the third fight. Well, no, sorry, it wasn't. The first fight was the draw, wasn't it? But you'd had that situation where Deontay hadn't got a result twice against the same fighter. What's important in that time when you're trying to build back a fighter?
So you say, okay, well, in my case, with Deontay, it was to show him so many things in film, not my opinion, in film, show him things that he used to do very well that he got away from that could possibly work better for him against the same opponent. What do I mean by that? In the Tyson Fury first fight, Deontay's feet was a lot more faster and his high hand was up a lot more higher. What did that do? That gave him a little bit more time to counterpunch against Tyson Fury. And those little, you could say minute things, they help a lot in high level fights, Kate. But and in the second fight, Deontay, his high hand wasn't up not one time. It was down here. Tyson was up, and he was able to maul Deontay a little bit more. Now, what I worked on was in the third fight, if you notice, Deontay did a lot of decoys in the first, you could say, 3-4 rounds. He was going to the body, he was going to the shoulder, he was looking down and shooting up, and he was trying different things. And in my opinion, he had more success in the third fight than he did in the second fight.
Absolutely.
And so, and then during that time, I'm motivating, like, you know what I mean? I'm telling him and my motivation is the truth. If I'm telling Deontay, throw you the hardest punch in the history of the sport, and they don't know what kind of boxing skills you got. This is not hype. This is actual reality things I'm saying. Like, I'm not telling him, like, you know, you're hard as a tree. You know, you got to, like, no. You know, it's realistic stuff, and it's realistic stuff that I've been paying attention to over the last 10 years of this guy.
So going back to Oleksandr Usyk, you were in his camp right ahead of his second fight with Anthony Joshua. How did that come about?
Well, one, because me and Usyk have had a great relationship. You could say over the last, 7 years. The guy flew me to Ukraine, spent 2-3 months with him over there at a time, couple times in Ukraine. Whenever it is he here in the States, you know, I'm at his training camps. And just over that time, we built a good relationship. And I watch him going basically for having broken English. His English is not that great now, but it's way better than it was. And we built, you know, our own bond. So what it was I'm training Gerald Washington, who's also my fighter right now, and Usyk and his team. You know, I'm very close with his brother, Sergio. They was looking, you know, obviously coordinating the camp for sparring. So they wanted myself. They wanted Gerald Washington. I threw a few other names at him. We was able to coordinate the camp. I went over there. We spent 9 weeks. It's probably the best training camp I've ever been to as far as experience-wise, because what I was able to do there, Kate, was incredible for someone like me. I was able to actually spar Usyk, hop out the ring with him, train the guys that was all in camp, coach against him with these guys, and then back boxing him again the next day, then training the guys, then coach against him with the same guys. That's priceless stuff. I appreciate Usyk because he could easily be petty or extra sensitive and say, well, Malik trains Deontay, I'm not going to lie. No. He understands that me and Deontay have our relationship. This thing is business. If he needs my help as far as sparring, coordinating camp, I'll be there for him. But if he's against us, across the other side of that ring, and I'm in Deontay's corner or a fighter that I'm representing, no, we out to get him in his off with his head.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? From the outside looking in, it looked like a strange move, I felt, because you know that everybody knew that you work with Deontay. Everybody knows how tight you are. He's going to know that in the very near future, you would hope that they would fight, right? And he will also know that your loyalty will lie with Deontay Wilder in that case. So why do you bring somebody into your intimate circle? Is that not a risk?
I don't really think it's a risk at this level. I think it would be a risk at the beginning of the careers if he was to do that, because with Oleksandr, to me, it's extremely confident of him to actually do that. It's extremely because the unsimilarities in styles is not that far apart. What Usyk is going to do when he fights Deontay is he's going to shuck and jive, he's going to steal, he's going to try to get his shots in. That game plan is not going to change regardless whether I'm in camp or not. You know what I'm saying? Now, say if, you know, in the future things may have get like that, I would totally understand that. But I believe that I'm an honest man when it comes to Usyk, and he's always been honest with me. And, you know, if he's fighting anybody else against Deontay, besides Deontay, I've always rooted for him. It just so happened that I'm Deontay's trainer. Him and Deontay may fight, and when they do, I believe Deontay will knock him out.
But real talk, was there not something that you saw when you were in that camp that you thought, okay, when I'm training Deontay to go up against Oleksandr Usyk, that's something we're going to target?
You want to know something? Not in that particular camp, but just overall, yes. When I'm in that camp, I was really, Kate, I really want you and the viewers to understand, like, that experience that was in Dubai for 8-9 weeks. I was able to box Usyk, then hop out the ring, then hop in guys' corner, then strategize against him. That right, like naturally, me being a geek, I'm picking up things. But he's so much of a superior boxer that to working through them loopholes of everything that he offered with his system as a fighter is like, it'll be difficult for anybody. But in him fighting Deontay, in that case, he's just fighting the hardest punch in the history of the sport. And whether I'm in training camp with Usyk or not, whether he has me in camp with him or not, either way, Usyk is a slick fighter that gets hit. And if you're a slick fighter that gets hit and you're smaller than Deontay, biomechanically, in my opinion, it's not humanly possible for him to take Deontay one hit quitter. I just
Mm-hmm.
can't see that even happening. Like, no, I've seen lesser opponents hit Usyk and rock him a little or hit. So this is just math almost. 1+1 is 2, Kate. Deontay
Mm-hmm.
Wilder hit a smaller man with all his power. You out of there. Look at what it took for someone to take the power and get up. It took what some people say the biggest and the best heavyweight of all time, Tyson Fury. So Usyk got a better chin than a bigger guy and a hard-driven guy like Tyson Fury in the World Series. And it's not his fault. This is just biomechanically. This is just math.
Right.
Like, this is not me saying, oh, he can't fight. No, this is If Deontay didn't have the power he had and didn't have the underrated IQ that he had, I would say, oh, man, we got our work cut out here. But I just don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe that. I see Usyk coming out trying to cause some problems through frustration with his tactics. That's very, very good. But I just believe he'll get caught. And when he get caught, I just don't believe he could take that. Especially, God forbid, it happen over and over and over. And
Mm-hmm.
don't forget, Usyk has been in how many rounds have him and Joshua fought together? 24?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's miles on the clock. That's miles on the clock. What about the Chisora fight? That's miles on the clock. Did him and Chisora fight twice, if I'm not mistaken, or once?
Yeah,
It was
that's a
once.
good question. It was only once?
Yeah, no, I believe it was once.
Wasn't it his first kind of real test at heavyweight?
Yeah, real test. The fight before that, he fought Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
But I just, you know what I mean? Usyk is a great, great fighter. And it's been tons of great fighters that when they got in there with certain guys that on that night, they're just not great. On that night against Deontay Wilder, I don't believe that he's that great. I believe when he fights Tyson Fury, he has a better chance of beating Tyson Fury than beating Deontay Wilder.
Oh, interesting. So who would you pick in that fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury? You said better chance, but...
Yes. My prediction for that fight is the same. I wouldn't be surprised if Usyk won the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Fury was a little overhauling for him after a few rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing you got to give to Usyk, Kate, is that he always finds a way to win. He's serious, all heart championship material with a high intellect of IQ with his boxing game. So I wouldn't, it's a 50-50 fight to me. I'm not looking at that fight saying, oh, big Fury. He's going to, no. No one is just going in there doing whatever it is they want to do to Usyk and just having it their way. Not even us. Because if you notice what I'm saying, Kate, I'm saying it'll take Deontay a few rounds to get to him. Yeah. But once he do, that's all she wrote.
So
because he gets hit. You know what I mean?
Right.
He gets hit. Usyk come out of fights with black eyes and, scarred up. You're getting hit. That's like you're getting hit and you're fighting Wilder.
It's a dangerous game.
Yeah, there you go.
So you talked about big time boxing, right? And you mentioned final eliminator, but we didn't name him. Andy Ruiz is the final eliminator that's been mandated by the WBC, right? How do you like that fight for Deontay?
I wasn't interested. I'm not crazy about the fight. You know what I mean? Like I said, my picks for Deontay. I'm not crazy about the fight because the market is there when I think about it. Andy's Mexican, he's tough, former heavyweight champion. He just beat Ortiz. I just feel I wouldn't say I'm not excited about the fight. I would just say I'm more excited with him fighting AJ or the Usyk. But if we got to, draw it up for Andy,
I mean, if you're basing this on market, I would have thought that Usyk doesn't have as big of a market as Andy Ruiz, because if you think about where Usyk's fought for an American audience, right? He's been on DAZN.
For an American audience, right?
Yeah. For a European audience, definitely there's a bigger market for him.
So we'll say if he don't have the market, but what he do have is those titles. So, but with Andy, say if I'm saying he don't have the market and he don't have the titles, and he Deontay clip Andy Ruiz, which I believe he will do if the fight takes place. People are going to look at it. Andy's tough, but it's Andy, and this is just how human think. Now, how I take it is, oh man, we beat Andy Ruiz. That's tough. He was fast. He was this. He was that. But if we're talking from an outstate of just viewers, they won't view it like that. I don't know. When Andy can fight, I'm not taking no credit from him, Kate. He can fight. I'm just very big on Deontay fighting Usyk or Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury for a fourth time.
So do you think that's a fight that it's harder for Deontay to get motivated for?
No, not at all. no, not at all. But I believe that because Andy is dangerous. He got some things that he can do, but also he's someone that gets hit.
Mm-hmm.
All you my thing, you want to know something, Kate? This is funny. Half of my strategy of when I hear about an opponent for Deontay, the first thing I think about is their defense. The first thing I think about is
Okay.
their defense, right off the rip. If you have any kind of issues with defense, you out of there. You out of there. Like, you know what I mean? And those that's not out of there was only one, and that's Tyson Fury. And he was almost out of there. He barely escaped. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So, when I'm talking about Deontay, it could come across like I'm taking credit from other fighters. It's not. But when I watch him be off for as long as he was off, and I watch him come off of 2 losses, and I watch our last opponent come off of his 2 biggest wins, and I watch Deontay draw him into a trap and clip him in that kind of fashion, that just speaks volumes on what I believe with this guy. And I don't think no one is exempt from that happening to. That
Mm-hmm.
what was done to Robert Helenius could be done to any heavyweight in the world messing with Deontay Wilder, especially when he's on point. He's in sniper mode. He's sticking to a systemized game plan. Oh, it's scary.
It was scary. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on from Deontay for a second, if there was any other fighter that you could choose to work with right now, is there a fighter that you'd say, man, I'd really like to be able to get my hands on him?
It's so many good fighters, man. I like the kid. What's his name? From the UK, Fraser Clark. Fraser Clark. Yeah, I think Fraser Clark is a big time. When I see him fight, a lot of things he do, it reminds me of things that I teach. I don't really have people like that because honestly, Kate, what I really like to do is I don't know how this is going to come across. Since I'm Deontay Wilder's here training, I'm this certain level, but I enjoy teaching guys who you can say don't know their left foot from their right foot, and then watch them 4 months from now, and I'm watching them move fluid and box just as fluid as anybody that's been boxing 4 or 5, 6 years more than them. I get a kick out of actually the teaching aspect. I don't really have no picks on who certain guys I want to work with or something like that. Like I want to work with whoever it is that wants to learn this craft. People that's really dedicated. They if they not a geek, they want to become a geek for the craft, and they really in this thing for sequence and not just money.
Mm-hmm. Other than Fraser Clark, is there a fighter that you really enjoy watching right now? One of the top guys?
Oh yeah, tons. Boots Ennis is
I
love watching Boots. I love watching Julian J. Rock Williams is probably, besides Lennox Lewis, my favorite fighter of all time.
Dang, okay, that's cool.
Let's please.
Do you work with Julian?
No, I don't work with Julian.
Okay,
but his trainer, Stephen Edwards, I believe that's his whole name. Redman is an extremely good, great detailed trainer. And when watching him and J Rock chemistry together, it's Picasso at his finest. And J Rock is my favorite fighter of all time besides Lennox Lewis. Just the fundamentally sound, the base, no crossing feet, high hand up, chin tuck. And this is not something I go back and forth about, because in boxing, Kate, when you tell people who your favorite fighter is or something like that, the first thing they want to do is bring up, Whitaker knocked him out. I don't care about wins and losses when it comes to the fighters that I'm into. I'm into the subplot of things. Like, you know what I mean? Most of my favorite fighters have 3 or 4 or 5 losses. That's not why you're my favorite fighter, because you're undefeated or anything like that. But you know what I mean? I enjoy just watching the game, preliminaries, undercard fights. I'm the first one there. Like, I just enjoy this noble arcade. Like, you know what I mean?
What about you? Because you had an exhibition fight, was earlier this year, Belarus, right? Are you done with fighting yourself, or are you still open to taking on fights?
If I do, it'll be things like that. It'll be like, other countries. I'm into fighting guys from other elements of combat sports. Like, you see how Tito Ortiz is getting ready to fight the MMA legend. I just fought Sergey Krananov. I'm into stuff like that. Do I want to get back in the gym and have 8-week training camps and train and get ready and I'm going to be a contender? Nah, no. I'm always in shape. I'm always ready for a call, but I'm always ready for a certain call. Like,
But so explain to me why, because it had been like 7 years, is that right, since you had been in a fight when you did that exhibition fight in Belarus? So what do you get from that? What is it that you wanted from it?
What I wanted from it was to actually, because because I'm always working out in the gym and I'm always working on new drills. I'm always working on my own base and just making sure it's almost as if like I always have a fight coming up. This is just in my head. I think all fighters go for it. So when I got the call for that, it's just me just working on my drills, just showing people and myself that no, the things you practice, the things you do. So if you look at that fight, I was doing tons of left-handed work in there. I was turning my guy. I was controlling him. I was putting my lead hand up. I was looking down but shooting up and things of that nature. I was really having fun, and I was just on drill time, on my own drill time for things that I drill and practice myself every other day.
So it's almost like an experiment for you.
Oh, big time. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's one of the experiments in life. This whole life is an experiment to me. But that right there is just one of the experiments in in this big element of life. So yeah, and I enjoyed it. And that's things like that I'm looking forward to doing it again. I'm very big on things like that. Like for instance, I'm huge on UFC. And do I mean that I'm big on that more than boxing? No, but I appreciate all aspects of this noble art. I'm big on fighting fighters from UFC. You know, let's go to another country and fight. You know, put your skill against my skill, which it won't be a test because when it comes to skills, especially if you talk about me going against a UFC guy, there's no way they can match my skills. Like this is just what I do. But just the combative nature of it is always entertaining and interesting for me and my mindset. So it was a good experience. I'm looking forward to doing it again. And Kate, you want to know what's real crazy about it, huh? And this matches me as a person as well. So I was doing that at the time when the war first kicked off with Ukraine and Russia. So I was in the air flying in Moscow. When I landed in Moscow, don't forget the fight was in Belarus. So I actually had to be creep past the borders and all type of stuff. So the experience was great in and out the ring. I really enjoyed it. If I was real intelligent, I would have had a whole YouTube video about it, but
yeah,
I don't be that bright sometimes.
That's intense though, huh?
Yeah. I enjoyed it though. I took my friend over there with me. He did a good job coaching me in my corner, Andrew Staff. And we had, it was just, it was a good time to take advantage of fun in life. And that's what I did.
So you're going to do that again?
Yeah,
not that exactly, but
okay. Yeah, even if it's that exactly, but a different opponent. But I just wanted to be somebody from the MMA world, from the UFC, like things like to hold the entrance, like, you know what I mean? So, I'm looking forward to doing it again, not just once, not just twice, but many more times. The kid, I'm always in shape. If I'm not training Gerald Washington, who's ready to fight any and everybody right now, because I got him very systemized down to a whole new level. I can't wait till you guys see him fight again. I'm working with other fighters.
So his last fight was January, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He lost to the Kid Ali. His head wasn't right, which means his physicalities wasn't right. Well, ever since he's been with me, we've been drilling. When I say drilling, I don't mean just physically, I mean mentally as well.
Have you got a fight you're leading up to with him? And does he have a date?
No, he don't have a date, but we was in negotiations with fighting Joseph Parker, but it don't look like that's going to happen now. But yeah, that was going to be real big. And Gerald is in a position right now that he's going to end up beating someone that has no clue how good he is, which works perfect for me because they're my favorite kind of victories. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
When you were talking about, do you want to go into an 8-week camp? You're like, hell no, absolutely not. I don't want to do that. Is there anything you do miss about being an active fighter versus being a coach?
The glory you get after, obviously, I think that could be, a rush. That could be a dream. You get out the ring and people like, to a certain extent, I guess, but like, no, not really. I look at it like all as one thing. I know that sounds strange. I just look at it like I'm so happy and so blessed that I went from the transition happened the way it happened for me. As long as I'm in boxing, Kate, I'm never away from it. I'm fine with that. The thrill remains the same to me. The only time that thrill leaves is when I'm going and not able to even be in it again because, okay, I'm talking to you now, but I'm ready to talk to you, and I have a Mike McCallum session today. So I have sessions. So we'll say Frank Martin is fighting today, but after Frank Martin fight go off, I'm doing the whole James Toney, Mike McCallum film study again for the 8th time that I've been on. And I'm doing that for certain reasons to bring into my drills to teach my students that you can't just slip and not counter because that's a slip and counter seminar. James Toney fighting Mike McCallum in close quarters, not slipping all the way and you're out the way to hit someone back. They was doing that very close. So I'll be doing that for about 3 hours the night after the fight. And as long as I'm in boxing, I'm happy. My thrills is the same. It doesn't go like, well, when I was fighting, it was this high, this high. I've always been, as long as I'm in this game that saved my life, I'm fine with that. Whatever thrill come from that, that's the thrill that boosts my adrenaline.
Why'd you say it saved your life?
Oh, because when I was 12 years old, I was fighting. My little brother had a Blount disease. So my mom took me to the gym. But when she took me to the gym, I went and I started getting into the streets and, thought I was about to be some cool, street punk. And Fred Jenkins, he got out of his bed at 2, 3 in the morning, used to find me at night and bring me back at home. So if Fred Jenkins didn't do none of that, basically make sure I stayed in the gym, I'm sure my life would have went a totally different turn, because my father was incarcerated at the time, and my uncle, who was like my dad, he passed away, and it was just my mother and my grandmother who did the best that they could do. So the only thing I had was the streets of North Philadelphia. And I wasn't, this is not coming from a place of someone that was, I wasn't like the gangster street guy. No, I wasn't that. I was like the hustler kind of street type of guy that could get into, bull crap just by trying to be sneaky and do hustling things and you like not harming people. Like, you know what I mean? So if it wasn't for Fred Jenkins and boxing, things would have went haywire with me. I give all glory to God for letting everything go the way that it went.
Amen. It just takes one person to change your life, right? That's dope.
Oh, and it was Fred Jenkins, absolutely.
So final question. I feel like we always talk about in boxing pound for pound rankings, right? But we never do it with the coaches. If you had to give me your top 5 pound for pound ranking of boxing coaches, who's on your list?
Oh, boxing coaches?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is my personal list. This is my personal list. Pound for pound best boxing coaches. I will put Barry Robinson from A Million Styles of Boxing at the top of the list. Joe Goosen, of course. Now, don't forget, Joe Goosen, you can say commercially and things like that wise, have accomplished more than Barry. But don't forget, these are my favorites for my reason. Got me? So I will go with Barry Robinson from A Million Styles of Boxing. I will go with Joe Goosen. Breadman is just Breadman. Who else is it? Come on, I just had his name in my head. Got to give it to James. He did it 2 or 3 times in 1 year, and he actually was a fighter before. And I watched his system and how he go. I'm very big on the way how Barry Hunter.
You talking about Derek James?
Yes, Derek James.
Okay.
I'm very big on the job Barry Hunter is not just doing now with fighters, but what he's been doing since I was a kid. Barry has been raising champion, him and Boog down there in D.C. So Barry Hunter's that's number 4, right?
So wait, you had
Barry.
Who did you start with? Barry Robinson. You had Joe Goosen was your number 2.
Yes.
You had Derek James, Breadman, Derek James. 3. Sorry, my bad. 4. Derek James. Number 5. Who we got?
Number 5, I will have to go. Emmanuel Stewart, to me, he doesn't count on this list. But Emmanuel Stewart, I would say, is that probably, I don't compare. I wouldn't compare Manny to my favorite right now, even though he is. But I look at him like, this is Earth and this is in a way. But who else? There's so many great coaches out here, man. I got him, Malik Scott. So
I was going to say, because fighters always put themselves on. I was going to say, you're not going to put yourself on.
Yeah. And I put myself, and I'm glad I did it that way, because I literally, at this moment, humbly speaking, I put myself under everyone I just named. Literally, I do.
I respect that. That's dope. Listen, I appreciate your time. I've taken a bunch of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was good to meet you, probably. I've never actually spoken to you one-on-one.
I know, not one-on-one like this. It was good. Yeah, thanks for reaching out.
No, I appreciate you, baby. Thank you.
God bless.